All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? And if you're early, good for you. Trying to start on time because it's hard for me to go over time, and I want to have all the time to talk about. It's hard to compress everything into an hour. You guys get the idea. What's up, people of Rockfin? I see you. Old as Dirt, Denver's here. William, what's going on? Folks of YouTube, you guys are filing in. Caleb, Malcolm, Gene. People, I don't know what's going on with Rumble. I don't know if anybody cares about Rumble. What happened to the lazy, hazy days of Twitter when we were... Can you live stream on Twitter again? Do you have to be verified to live stream on Twitter? I don't know. Did they drop that again already? I'm not sure. I need to check into it. Streaming on Twitter was kind of cool. Well, I started the show earlier, and that's why the notifications went out. If I post a show half an hour before it starts, it doesn't really help. But I posted the show many hours before it started, so that I think helps the deal. Okay, well, all right. But good to see you. Thank you, people, for being here. Thank you for being here. Someone, and I don't know who the someone is, and I'm sorry. I don't have your name. When I get notifications from Buy Me a Coffee, a lot of times they just said, someone bought you some coffees. They don't give me the name of the someone, and maybe that's on purpose. I don't know. Anyways, someone bought me 5 coffees last night, said, as always, you offer balance in the site. You work to provide information from all sides. You show the viewer options to make a choice, a decision. Good stuff. I used to work 3 jobs. Now I work 1 job. Well, that's good. Good for you. Whoever sent this. That's 3 jobs is hard to do. I have very weak vision in my right eye, glaucoma. So this limits what I can do. Continue to bring a vibrant commentary to the community. Thank you. Good stuff. Oh, and I watch the show after I get off work because of the new time. All good. Thank you. I'll continue to watch. You care about your audience. Thanks. Whoever sent that to me, that was a really kind note, and I really appreciate you. And yes, always remember to like and to share. Like and share. If you think somebody would enjoy the show. I sometimes have trepidation in sharing my own show. Because I think we're a little bit off the beaten path. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think some people, are just busy and they don't want to think about things that are harsh. And some people appreciate the information. I don't know. That's why sometimes people ask me about the show, or I pause in letting people know about the show, because I'm like, are you going to appreciate me, or are you just going to judge me? You're going to come watch my show and go, okay, what is he on? And I kind of want to keep my friends in real life. I do. I want to keep the friends I have in real life. I want to keep them. I don't want them to look at me like I'm a kook, or maybe not talk to me because they think I'm a kook. But maybe that's already happening and it's all true. I'm a kook. Whatever. Again, I am who I am. Unvarnished. And, if you appreciate the show, then I appreciate you. I appreciate you even if you don't appreciate the show. I still appreciate you. Brian McNulty. This is pretty amazing. The ocean heat content averaged over the Gulf of Mexico is obliterating previous all-time record highs. It's 126% of average for the date. So that's double plus some. 126% of average. If you can see the graph. That's where we are. Hot times. Just one of the data points along the way. Man, I've been getting plagued by hangnails. Yeah. It's painful. Especially when you play guitar. Hangnails suck. Another data point, Phoenix reaches 100 degrees. Extra Bullet sent me this. Phoenix reaches 100 degrees for record 100th straight day. Several cities and regions of the U.S. are setting temperature records this year. Why? Because this year is hotter than last year. And last year was hotter than the year before. And that year was hotter than the year before. That's kind of how it's going these days. We used to, a few decades ago, live in the time of variations, when the temperature did go up and then go down and then go up and then go down, right? Where you had, natural variation, which is a thing that a lot of people like to hang their hats on. It's the it's just summer crowd, but it's getting hotter, consistently hotter, right? Some years we have super high peaks of heat, spikes of heat. And some years we just have grinding, hotter than, heat that is, usually what it is during the summer, right? But it just lasts longer and it just grinds you down, because instead of 2 or 3 weeks out of the summer, it's 6 weeks out of the summer. And that is also a thing that's happening. Anyways, many places in the U.S. are experiencing hotter days for longer periods in the summer. And that's one of the effects of the climate getting warmer. The old global warming. Ye old. Phoenix, I'm not going to read the same thing 3 times. The previous record was 76 days of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The previous record was 76 days. So they beat it by 25 days. That seems a little wild. Doesn't it? That record was set in 1993. In a row, I guess. Record, or is it 100th straight day? So I guess in a row, 76 days in a row. No end in sight. An excessive heat warning will be in effect on Wednesday. The previous record was 76 straight days in 1993. Anyways, Phoenix has just reached this mark today, and the streak is expected to continue with no end currently in sight. Thursday's high temperature is expected to be 114 Fahrenheit. I think, other places like Florida, Tampa, cities in Florida are experiencing the same thing. Anyways. That's brutal. And it's hot all over. It's hot here. We're entering into. We're actually gonna have the warmest heat wave yet in Southern California in September, which I feel like is something that's been happening. I remember 2 years ago, we had a really brutal, 2 weeks in a row of 100 degrees. Felt like 2 weeks in a row. It was a pretty long spell. Maybe it was 10 days, but it was rough. Anyways, we're supposed to hit 100 today. Oh man, now they're saying, at first it was 3 days and now it's 6 days. Yikes. Supposed to hit 100 today and pretty much be 100 or over for the next 6 days. So we're going to get slapped. Yeah, we covered that yesterday, Gene. The Palos Verdes. Yeah. I talked about it. Yeah. The people building homes where it's gonna fall into the sea. That's not smart. But I don't know. People just build homes wherever they want to. I actually, in Southern California, the people want cheap housing because it's really expensive. The closer you are into the city, it's really expensive to live here. And so people keep spreading out. Los Angeles and the area of Los Angeles keep spreading out, and people live now in the deserts and commute into the city. They live far out, way far out where it's hotter, right? And it's just it's a little bit, it makes me wonder, So people live in places like Palmdale or Riverside, and it's hot as blazes there. It's, 20 degrees hotter there than it is in downtown LA. So if it's, if it's 100 degrees in downtown LA, which it's, hard to get that hot in downtown LA. Here where I live, yes, because I live a little more inland. So it's, LA is a certain degree. Usually here where I live, it's 10 more degrees. And then if you go out more into the desert, Palmdale or wherever, or Riverside, it's tacked 10 more degrees onto that. So it's super, super hot out there. I'm not saying it's going to reach 120 degrees, but they're probably going to get 110. And that is rough times. Let's see what Palmdale's going to do today. Oh, 101. So they're not peaking too hard. Although I doubt the veracity of that. I bet you if I drove my car up there, it'd be a lot hotter. You know how they like to hide the actual temperatures. But Hopefully they won't be 110 degrees, but why can't I see this? Why can't I even type? No. I can't even type, guys. Silly. Yeah, well, yeah. So the next couple days in parts of the desert, it's going to be 108, 108, 106. So very warm. In Zimbabwe, they're digging riverbeds in a desperate search for water. One of the worst droughts in living memory is sweeping across southern Africa, leaving close to 70 million people without enough food or water. We read about what country was it? I cannot remember the name of the country. I thought it was Sudan, but maybe it was somewhere else. Killing elephants for food. Elephants and hippos. In the Mudzi district in northern Zimbabwe, a community and their livestock are gathered on a bone-dry riverbed. The Vambozi normally flows throughout the year, but right now it's just beige sand as far as the eye can see. Armed with shovels and buckets, the men are digging into the river floor, desperately trying to extract the last drops of water from it. Rivers and dams have dried up in other parts of the district, and as a result, more and more people are descending on the specific riverbed in Kurima village, putting pressure on the water source. Along the riverbed are several holes large enough to fit a single bucket. Children are bathing, women are doing laundry and giving their bellowing cattle drinks of water. Gracious Puri, a mother of 5, stands among these women. The 43-year-old tells the BBC she now has to walk further than usual, spending 3 hours every day traveling to fetch water. Miss Puri lowers her bucket into the half-meter wide hole and draws brown-colored water. She worries about her family getting sick. Food is also in short supply in Zimbabwe, where 7.7 million people face hunger. In Mudzi, the number of families who have access to sufficient amounts of affordable, nutritious food has dropped by more than half compared to previous years, the local health authority says. Oh, Namibia? Okay. That makes sense. Sudan is north, right? Thank you, Gene. Children have been particularly impacted since June. Hospital admissions for youngsters with moderate to severe malnutrition have doubled. A village feeding program is trying to tackle the problem. Once a week, women in the community gather, bringing whatever produce they have in order to contribute to a porridge for under 5s. Ground baobab fruit, peanut butter milk, leafy green vegetables are stirred into the porridge to add extra nutrients. But the list of ingredients shrinks every week. Cowpeas and beans recently became unavailable because of poor harvests. The government, with the support of partners like the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, devised the village feeding scheme, and it used to run at least 3 times a week. But because the El Nino drought, we are now only giving it once a week, explained Kudzai Madamombe, Mudzi District's medical officer. Because the rains didn't come, we suffered a 100% loss in terms of all the crop, he said, saying the program might be forced to stop altogether in the next month as food stocks dwindle. Clinics providing Zimbabweans in Mudzi with vital health care have also been affected. Boreholes that supply a quarter of the clinics in the district with water have run dry, Mr. Madabambe said, and the major dam in the district has only a month's supply of water left. As a result, vegetable irrigation schemes, including one which supported 200 local farmers, have been suspended. The misery is everywhere. Tambudzai Mahachi, 36, says she planted acres of maize, cowpeas, and peanuts on her plot. For all her hard work, she got nothing at all, not even a plate of food. Even her hardy baobab trees produced hardly any fruit. In a good year, Miss Mahachi says she would normally supply markets in the capital, Harare, but she is now among the millions of Zimbabweans relying on handouts. When the village feeding scheme provides food 1 day a week, her children need to eat every day. Seated in a thatched hut, she boils wheat so she can provide her 2 children with breakfast. The wheat was supplied by a charitable neighbor. We have gone from eating what we want and what we want to limiting meals. Miss Mahachi says the older girl understands that we sometimes can have only porridge, but at times I can see that my youngest is hungry. The drought has prompted about a third of the countries in southern Africa to declare a state of disaster. A massive 68 million people across the region need food aid. The Southern African Development Community, a grouping of countries in the region, appealed for $5.5 billion in aid to combat the effects of drought in May. So far, only a tiny fraction has been received. If you go anywhere in southern Africa, family granaries are empty, and maize, which is the region's most consumed in terms of carbohydrates, is now priced out of many people's hands. The situation is only going to get worse. These are signs of things to come. Outside of southern Africa. Let's see. Thanks for the link, Denver. Apparently, Zimbabwe is accelerating the construction of 12 large dams to supply electricity and irrigation and potable water. Apparently funded by Chinese companies. Interesting. This is from 2023. Sorry, I'm just trying to... I'm looking at all the links. Levels of forever chemicals are increasing in groundwater. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. That is happening. Yeah, they are. Well, China's trying to gain influence through diplomacy. And I mean, I don't know if they're doing the same kind of tactics as the IMF, the economic hitman tactics. Who knows? It has yet to be seen. But yes, China is spreading their money around pretty much everywhere, which I think people are grateful for. If it doesn't come with, we're going to overthrow your country if your leaders don't do what we want, but right, which has been the tactic of the U.S. So if you give people loans and help, monetary help, without those kinds of strings attached, that could be, a lot more inviting, enticing, and kind. Let's see. Let's see where we at. This is a very sad post. The heat is affecting so many things. This summer's extreme heat is pushing Bosnia's wildlife to the brink. Excuse me. Look at this brown bear, just desperately. Doesn't look like a brown bear to me. It looks like a black bear, but maybe I can't see. I guess it is a brown bear. Desperately trying to cool off in a mud puddle. With temperatures soaring, animals are forced to adapt in ways they never had to before. Bears and other wildlife are facing dehydration, heat stress, and disrupted feeding patterns. As they search for water and shade, many are driven closer to human areas, increasing the risk of conflicts. That is happening everywhere. And you kind of have to you have to have your eyes open to see it. But it's happening a lot. Scientific studies confirm that prolonged heat waves are reshaping ecosystems, reducing food availability, and threatening biodiversity. These extreme conditions are a powerful wake-up call to intensify our climate action and conservation efforts. Protecting wildlife and their habitats isn't just a choice, it's a necessity for ensuring a future where both humans and nature can survive and thrive. Here's switching to another subject. Another Democrat, or an aide to a Democrat, has been found colluding with another country. Was it Bob? And I don't know if I talked about this, but Bob Menendez was famously just found guilty for being acting as a foreign agent with Egypt, and that sentence just recently came down. But this is interesting. Former top aide. Let me see if I can find a better source for this. China's consul general in New York removed after aide charged with acting as agent for the Chinese government. And remember the story about was it Nancy Pelosi's driver, or was it there was some aide to, was it Nancy Pelosi or Feinstein? I can't remember. An aide to one of the top Democratic politicians in California was also a Chinese agent. And they buried that story very quickly. Anyways, a former aide to New York governors Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo was charged with acting as an agent for the Chinese government. I wonder about that. Is the aide taking the fall? Are these politicians colluding with the Chinese government and having the aide be the go-between and the aide takes the fall? Just to suppose. Hochul said during a phone call she conveyed my message to have the consul general from the People's Republic of China at the New York mission expelled. And I've been informed that the consul general is no longer in the New York mission. But maybe they're just unawares. When asked about the consul general's involvement, Hochul said, I believe that the Chinese government with their behavior is doing this and working with Linda Sun is not acceptable. It is a statement by us that we're not tolerating this. Anybody representing that government needs to move on. That was what we made clear. CNN has reached out to the Chinese Consulate General in New York for a comment. Hochul's announcement comes after Sun, a former deputy chief of staff to Hochul and Cuomo, was charged with violating and conspiring to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling, and money laundering conspiracy, according to an unsealed copy of the indictment. Her husband and co-defendant Chris Hugh was also charged with money laundering conspiracy and conspiracy to commit bank fraud, as well as misusing means of identification. Okay. Hochul said Sun was a mid-level aide. She didn't have contact with her very often and had no real role in my policies as governor. Okay. Or so she says. Governor says she feels confident in our vetting process right now. While working for the state government, Sun influenced the messaging of high-level state officials regarding issues of importance to China, blocked Taiwanese government representatives from access to the officials, and obtained official New York State proclamations for Chinese government representatives without authorization, prosecutors alleged in the indictment. So she did. She did have some influence, didn't she? The couple's arrest, let me see. Her husband was involved as well. He facilitated the transfer of millions of dollars in kickbacks for personal gain. The couple's arrest comes at a time when U.S.-China relations remain fraught over a host of frictions, including Beijing's aggressions. It's easier to say Russian aggression, but Beijing aggression. Well, I guess that's okay. In the South China Sea and towards Taiwan, and U.S. trade controls targeting China. Anyways, that's a weird story, right? Do you think it's rampant influence from other countries that, you know, people might be accepting this influence? People might be soliciting this influence? Who knows? Let's see. Pro-Palestinian protests are back at Columbia University. People are back in school. And the situation is still ongoing in Gaza and elsewhere in the West Bank. On the first day of classes, pro-Palestine protesters have created a picket outside of Columbia University demanding to shut it down and telling students don't go to classes, do not enter, call out sick. A huge line of students has formed around the block to go in. Yeah. Well, I'm glad the students are still at it and have the energy. Of course, according to the mainstream media or, you know, Netanyahu or all kinds of actors out there, these people are totally anti-Semitic. Hamas, this is all funded by Hamas or Iran, as the propaganda goes. But no, I think they just don't want to see people being indiscriminately bombed. Just like the man who left was it the Marines? I can't remember which part of the service it was that we covered the other day. He was an Army major. I think he left because he said something very appropriate, which is that you don't kill 35,000 people accidentally or through, you know, misfiring your weapons. And according to some sources, that death count is really low. Really low by like 5 times. Yeah. A little more on this. Protests outside of Columbia University demand the school divest from Israel. I mean, didn't Columbia University actually call the police in to have the shutdown last year? Or the National Guard even? I think they were pretty much like stomped out of protesting. Protests were held outside of Columbia University on Tuesday, the first day of classes. CBS News New York has learned the group Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine organized the demonstrations. Clearly funded by Iran. It was involved in many. I'm joking. It was involved in many of the protests at the school in the spring, and has repeatedly demanded the university divest from Israel in the wake of ongoing war with Hamas. It's not a war, by the way. Language is important. It is not a war. It is a slaughter. There's not a lot of fighting going along. There's just bombing people. The protesters started at around 9:30 a.m. outside the campus gate at Broadway near 116th Street. There was a similar protest on the opposite side near the gates by Amsterdam Avenue. NYPD said 2 people, a 21-year-old woman from California and a 21-year-old man from Manhattan, were arrested on disorderly conduct and obstruction charges. There were no signs of any demonstration on the campus grounds, but at around noon, the alma mater statue outside Lowe Memorial Library was doused with red paint. Chopper 2's Jim Smith reported the area was blocked off and crews worked to clean the statue. There were no immediate words on arrests or suspects related to the vandalism. Of course, they're making life unbearable for all Jews on campus. Unbearable. They're making life unbearable for people who are well off, wealthy, going to school. Just unbearable. But don't worry about it, because the Gazans are doing fine. The Palestinians are doing great. So this is really the important part. They're making life unbearable for everyone on campus, right? Nobody wants this. Columbia senior Alan Simon Levin said. In a statement, a university spokesperson said the university welcomed new and returning students for a productive first day of classes on Morningside campus. New security measures were put in place at the end of last semester after protests on campus over the war led to numerous arrests. The changes include students and staff having to show identification at the 5 points of entry to the Morningside campus. Any guests must also pre-register. Professor Joseph Howley said not all Jewish students share the same sentiment. I know there are Jewish students in that picket line right now. I know there are also Jewish students who feel a deep connection to the state of Israel and probably very unhappy seeing protests directed at the state of Israel because they're completely bonkers. I don't know. But it's good they're going to college, so they can be, that higher education. I could also turn it around and ask the alternative question, which is how are our Palestinian students feeling? Exactly. Walking to campus on the first day of classes and seeing so many of their classmates willing to come out and protest war that has been killing their family members for the last year. They're calling for a mask ban. That's great. Just when COVID's back. Is it a mask ban or a mask mandate? It is Zionism. You're right, Gene. I was thinking, though, Judaism is a religion. It's not a culture. Right? I mean, it's not a race, right? It's a culture, I guess. And Zionism is a a belief system, I guess. Is Zionism a religion or a belief system around a religion? I mean, there are Christian Zionists, right? But it is interesting that the people that always say never again are doing the things they said never again to. Okay. Where does that fit in? I don't know. And they support it because, of course, Palestinians are all they're subhuman, they're bad, they're not worthy of rights or dignity or a place to live or water or food or not being bombed every day. They don't deserve those rights because what would you call that? I don't know what would you call that? Racism or colonialism or fascism or authoritarianism, or what would you call that? Supremacism? Zionism is a mental illness. Well, all right. I'll get there with you on that one. Seems to be. Former Colombia President Minosh Shafiq's 13-month tenure was marred by controversy over her handling of pro-Palestinian protests. She announced her resignation in August and was replaced on an interim basis by Katrina Armstrong, who has vowed to balance students' right to free expression with ensuring safety on campus. It's always safe. It's always safety, right? Safety. Oh, I don't feel safe. Safety is always the wedge or the cudgel used to beat back people's rights, to take away people's rights. And at UCLA, right, there were people coming and attacking the protesters there, Zionists, and it seemed like they were very well organized and probably supported by, monetarily or ideologically by someone, I don't know who. But they came in and attacked these people, like violently attacked them, and the police were just standing around going, I don't know if we should stop this. We'll just see where this goes, right? So the people who were expressing their right to free speech or expression, certainly they didn't feel very safe. Oh, that's a good, yes. If Palestinians aren't safe, Colombia shouldn't be. Right. But man, narcissism as a belief system is, seems to be the order of the day, right? It's how our ruling class operates. They operate on this like narcissistic kind of behavior model. And so do Zionists, right? Religion-fueled ethnocentrism, says Denver, equals Zionism, or the other way around. Right? I'm the victim, but I'm gonna abuse you. I'm gonna assault you. I'm gonna abuse you. I'm gonna, trespass on you, aggress on you. but because I'm the victim, because I feel so unsafe. And you better, it's like somebody punching somebody in the face, and the person says, "Stop punching me," and they're like, you're being violent to me. Your statement against me, what are you talking about? I'm the victim. I'm punching you in the face. How dare you tell me to stop punching you? That's literally like what the action that's going on, which is extremely narcissistic behavior, right? I feel threatened, so therefore I can do anything I want to you. And if you have anything to say about it, you're clearly the aggressor. That's not what it is. Yeah. Zionism, yes, Denver. Zionism, even if not a religion, uses religion to fuel ethnocentric tendencies, universal to all people, throwing gas on a bonfire. And also, yeah, absolutely, Sean. October 7th is, yeah. Well, man, we're wading into dangerous territory here. I'm on YouTube. We're going to wade into even more dangerous territory, but before we do, we're going to go over to Rockfin. So I'm going to jump off YouTube. We're going to go to Rockfin for the last 15 minutes. So come on over to Rockfin or Rumble, wherever you like. We can watch over there because we're going to talk about I probably got a little too far off into the weeds already for YouTube, but that's okay. We'll see how that goes. But we're going to talk about even more controversial things over on Rockfin, okay? But before we do that, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, there are lots of ways to support the show financially, and very helpful. Always need your support financially, and there's, all the links are in the description box: Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, etc., etc. All those are great ways to support the show. Coffees, and those of you who support the show, you know who you are. And I thank you. So, all right, YouTubers, we'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.